Hi, this is Luke from Banana Llama Studios, and today I wanted to talk to you about the difference between mixing and mastering. So, this is a question sometimes I get asked by clients who aren't quite sure about the differences between mixing and mastering. And I think that's a fair question. If you're not a studio person and that's not kind of your realm, if you're more of a songwriter and you go into the studio and let other people do that kind of technical thing for you, I think it's a fair question. So this video is kind of for those people, or whoever you might be, whether you are a technical person or not and you're not quite sure, or you're learning, and hopefully this is helpful for you as well. The basic difference between mixing and mastering is that mixing is taking a number of tracks. So let's say we've got 10 sound sources or 10 tracks. So we might have a vocal, we might have a bass guitar, might have two other guitars. I have guitar, electric and an acoustic guitar, and a couple of drum overheads, some kick and snare drums. Okay, and they're all separately recorded. What we do when we're mixing is we bring those together and we turn those in to a stereo recording, okay, or a mix down. Now that stereo file is the file that you then send to the mastering engineer to have your music mastered. So then mastering is the process of finalizing that stereo file, those mixed individual instruments and tracks that make it ready for release, ready for Spotify, Apple Music, for a CD or whatever it might, and whichever way you're going to release the music. And so that's the basic difference between mixing and mastering. So the mixing happens first. Once that's done, then you're on to the mastering. Now, to go into a little bit more depth into mixing, mixing is the applying of, it's actually balancing the levels so that they all work together. So all of those instruments and all those parts work together and they actually sound mixed together. And then you might do things like apply EQ, you might apply compression, you might do other creative effects. You might apply reverbs and delays and things like that. And so if you're not familiar with those kind of terms, that's all right. But those are the kind of things that you do in the mixing phase. And those are on those individual sounds. And then you're going to bring those together. And it takes a lot of skill and experience to bring those together in a way that you go, okay, it's mixed now. And then we're going to print that to a stereo track, left and right, and then we're going to send that to the mastering engineer. And then the mastering engineer will then take that track and they're going to do things like listen to it and they've got a good idea of what is kind of the ballpark of how the tone of a song should sound compared to other commercially released tracks. So has it got too much bass? Has it got too little? Is it maybe not bright enough and it needs to be, needs to add a little bit more clarity to the mix, potentially. They might then do other processing to the track to make it ready for release, and that's so that it's comparable to other commercially released music. And so both two very different things. One is, working very much with the song and bringing it together, and then that finalizing part of mastering is helping then to get it ready so it measures up and it sounds good. So like if you're in a playlist on Spotify, you jump from a commercially released track to your track, it's not like, oh, hang on, what happened there? This has got too much bass in it, or, it's really quiet compared to the other tracks. So those are the kind of things that a mastering engineer is thinking about. They're thinking more so about, one, how to bring the best of that song out. So there's an artistic part of it, but also they're trying to think about how is this going to sound when it's compared against other songs once it's been released. Hopefully, that definition and those descriptions help you to understand a little bit better the difference between mixing and mastering. If you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks very much for listening, and all the best with your music making.